7's pretty good, and you're complaining about getting an 8 and 9 guy, basically.
Yeah, that's pretty much what we're doing.
Yeah, I love Brock Holt, and I love what he's been doing, but he just doesn't have a track record of durability. And
Vertigo did him in for about a year and a half.
Yeah,
it did.
He's
only played 42 games this year, so he hasn't played a lot.
He had I want to say it was an ankle issue or something 2 years prior.
Something lower body.
Yeah, right. And I just and he can fall off a cliff in the second half. We've seen him do that as well. So I just don't want to pin everything on him and then just have a shoddy lineup, as September rolls around. So
that's the option to bring in if there was a trade. Like you said, if it's a bullpen arm, yeah, that's great. But I think the bat is more prominent need because we have solutions for the bullpen in house where we don't for the bat because no one in Pawtucket's going to come up unless we want to call up Castillo, who's been good the last 2 weeks in Pawtucket. If anyone's been watching.
He'll hit good for contact if they want to go that route, and I would be curious to see that. I mean, it sounds like a decent enough internal option. And just to be clear, JBJ is always going to be my odd man out, not Holt or whatever, because if Holt shits the bed, then you at least have Nunez that can play second. Well, kind of.
That guy stinks. I'm so over Nunez. He has a negative offensive WAR rating, like one of the.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't know. I like his bat though, so I don't know. I'm glad we have him. I mean, he's at least a good depth guy.
Platoon option with Holt, but
yeah.
if the playoffs started tomorrow, I want Holt in at second base starting.
Yeah, I would too, especially if he's hitting this way. But I'm still, I'm looking at the long haul right now and whatever. But like I said, JBJ is my odd man out. I mean, he's probably 2 or 3 weeks from losing his fucking mind again and being like 2 for 35 or something.
He's the biggest hot cold hitter I've ever seen.
He's batting 184 right now, so it's not like he's in it.
Oh, okay.
I feel like he's been lighting the world on fire the past week. He's only batting 184.
I know. He hit a nice home run today too. That was a classic, JBJ, golf swing it out, but
in a low leverage situation, yeah.
Yeah, I mean he's struck out 63 times this year, which is pretty high in the Red Sox. The only people higher than him is
JD?
Devers and JD.
I figured it would be those two.
Yeah, Devers 76 and JD 70.
And speaking of the devil, we may as well talk about him. He has started to, hit consistently. He must have lost his streak that night against LeBlanc, though, I would think.
Yeah, I think he did. But, either way, I mean, he had a nice hitting streak going on. He's got 11 home runs now, batting 239, call it 240. He's turning it around. He's getting
driving in runners.
Yeah.
And it's really good to see a young guy. I know we talked about, optioning him down even for a couple games, give him a week off or something like that. But, it's great to see a kid that young turned around on his own while playing. And Benintendi did it this year too. There was you could argue and say that JBJ and Benintendi were the same 2.5 weeks of the season.
Was not a happy kid.
No, Benintendi was awful the first 2 weeks of the season. He was batting around 200. He had 1 home run. He kept rolling everything over to second base, but Cora kept him as the 2-hole, and he worked himself out of it. Devers never optioned down, never given a long break. He's played the most games on the Red Sox this year. He has
never really moved in the lineup either.
Nope, and I love that because these aren't guys that don't have potential. Like a Brock Holt, a Nunez, a JBJ, Vasquez, a Leon, those guys don't have the potential to be a 270, 280 plus hitter or, 30 home run guy. But Benintendi and Devers do. And to let them kind of work it out shows that, the manager has trust, and it gives them a peace of mind where you're not worried like a John Farrell that would take you out, move guys around. Remember when JBJ had that 30-game hit streak? How many times
Yeah.
he in a different order and was moved around and everything like that. Core just
He's gotten in the 9-hole during
Yeah.
that hit streak for a while.
he lets these guys be, and the guys that he has the trust in, he lets them work it out, and it's worked out so far this year. Great. I think I love what he's done with what he's been given with the lineup, because the bottom half of the lineup's a disaster, but it's not his fault.
No, they're just not hitting.
With Devers and Benintendi, though, I think they're two different animals. Benintendi came up, he was a great college player, very polished, and then he was pretty good all of last season. He hit 20 home runs, 70 RBI. So when he was struggling in April, I had the utmost confidence he would turn it around. And his OBP has been well above 350 even at that point. And
Yeah, he was.
yes.
Pretty big walks, yeah.
So, with him, there was never any concern. The thing in the back of my mind with Devers is he wasn't going to be called up last year at the deadline, only until maybe 24, 48 hours before it happened. They were saying, we're not going to rush the kid. He's young. We want him to develop. And then suddenly, I guess they realized they weren't going to get Moustakas or whatever. And so they're, around the 25th of July, they were like, okay, yeah, we're going to call the kid up. And he did well, but the sample size was short. And then when he struggled his April, I don't think was actually too bad. But, once May rolled around and he was struggling, then, I started looking back. I'm like, well, maybe everybody's figured him out, and maybe they did rush him up. And so that's when I started kind of advocating for him to be sent down, just to work on some things. I mean, he was swinging at garbage, though. I mean, balls in the dirt, and
He looked like Chris Davis up there.
yeah,
Yeah.
it just did not look good. And I just figured just a slight refinement would have been in order, and then brought him back. They could have sent some coaches down with him or whatever. And but to his credit, he's been phenomenal. In the last week and a half or so, and I like to see that. And I'm a big Devers guy. I like the kid. There's nothing about the kid that I don't like. He can play in Boston. He doesn't have the Bryce Harper attitude. He has his defensive lapses, but when I look at him, I see a kid who's working his ass off to try to become a better baseball player. So all of that is very encouraging. And I don't know what his numbers will look like at the end of the year, but as long as he's relevant and he's coming in clutch, unlike JBJ, who hits all his home runs when we have a 4 or 5 run lead, Devers is hitting them in key situations today or lately. And so, as long as he's coming through in those moments, that's really all I care about this season for him.
Well,
Yeah.
he's not doing them in the normal way of big spots. He's extending leads, which is an underrated part of baseball. If you can extend a lead, like a 2-run lead's still very viable. But like today, hitting the 3-run homer to make it 5-1 or 5-0.
5-0.
I
Yeah.
know.
Hitting that home run, that creates a little bit of distance, and it gives your pitcher a little bit of breathing room, and that's big.
But that was still a high leverage situation, I feel like, because especially today, because when we're watching Erod, who was not very efficient at all, I mean, he did get through 6 innings, but after 113 pitches, so I'm thinking, when it is 5-0, I mean, I texted David and I said, this game isn't over yet, and I think at that point they were about to be bases loaded, and then we were looking at probably 3 innings of bullpen. And so, I mean, I thought that situation, it did extend the lead, but it was really crucial. It was a crucial situation to drive in some runs that inning, because
it's high leverage in like a different sense than to what the normal baseball fan sees.
Yeah, right.
It's also clutch when it was with 2 outs as well.
Yeah.
That's a big thing as well. And I mean, Erod was not efficient at all today, but he did his thing. And same thing with Devers, which I mean, he's only batting 240, right? I mean, we're kind of, people are probably sitting there like, all right, you guys are hyping up a 240 player, but to come from what he was to where he is, and he's still getting hot, and he's still playing well, and you know the potential, you know what he did last year, you're just going to assume that he's going to finish batting, 270 with 25 home runs, which would be amazing. And
it's better than 120.
Yeah, way better than 120. He's been really good defensively, too, the last, 2 weeks. I don't know if anyone's noticed. People like to kind of pick on his defense.
Yeah.
Even today, he kept that ball in front of him when he was charging in, and it was an in-between hop, but that wasn't an error. That was an infield single, and a couple infield singles today. And I think Erod is showing his balls, and he's showing that he can pitch clutch as well. Today, he gives up a leadoff double. Okay, that's fine. Then it was a perfect bunt down third baseline and an infield single on that Devers play I'm talking about. All of a sudden, bases loaded, nobody out. And that's when Terry texted me saying, it's not over yet. And I texted him back saying, nope. And, this would be huge for Erod in a few different ways. And he ended up only giving up one run out of it. And he ends up getting out of there. But it just shows that he can pitch himself out of jams, like a Stephen Wright, like himself, something that, Pomeranz can't do, something that Price struggled with last year, who's been better with it this year. And Erod on the year is, he's 9-1 with a 3.59 ERA. I mean, that's really good for your fourth starter, and especially good for someone that throws over 100 pitches a start.
Yeah, definitely. I'm still a big Erod guy, but his lack of efficiency is concerning. I mean, he can't sustain this all year, I don't feel like, and say, average him out at 105, 107 pitches a start. I'm still not sure that that's really sustainable. He doesn't rattle, though, like, what you were kind of referring to there. I like his ability to not shit his pants on the mound like a lot of other pitchers would. And that's highly encouraging. And I still think he's going to be a top-of-the-rotation guy. I mean, he's going to be, even though he's a lefty, he's going to be like a John Lackey type pitcher on a lot of staffs and, be pretty serviceable. And I'd be curious to see what he looks like in the month of October, given those traits, So hopefully we'll get a chance to see it, though. Because we haven't, and that's going to be after the trade deadline. I guarantee you, we're going to spend at least 10 minutes of every show talking about what our 1, 2, 3 is going to be. And
it's going to switch every week.
Yeah, it will. It absolutely will. The two will remain consistent, but that third spot, everybody's going to be making a different case. Hang on, just one thing on Devers. I'm just looking at some numbers here. I got some good news. In the last 7 games, he's hitting 290. That's the good news. The bad news is his OBP is 290. So
oh God,
no walks. So
he doesn't walk. The guy doesn't walk. Bro.
Yeah. So I don't know. Hopefully, but his plate discipline has noticeably. I mean, he's not swinging at junk, so I guess that's nice. But I almost laughed out loud, when I saw that. But
when it's touching gravel out of the pitcher's hand, you probably shouldn't swing.
Right. Oh, and actually, here we go. Vasquez hitting 294 for the last 7 games. 294 OBP. So
look at that.
Yeah, we got a walk issue.
Holt, only in the bottom though.
Yeah, Holt is his OBP is almost 400 over that stretch as well.
Sweet.
So yeah, I don't know, just some funky numbers. I just wanted to see what Devers' short sample size was, where he'd been hitting pretty well. Some guys who had rough weeks, Mitch Moreland, though he might have come out of it today. Then that home run to center, that fly ball would have been out, if that was Fenway.
Well, that's not anywhere. He crushed that ball.
Yeah.
I mean, for numbers, in June, so, it's June 17th right now, and I believe we played around, 15 games in June so far? And
yeah, it's got to be.
Yeah, so Vasquez is batting .333 in June. JD batting well. Brock Holt 273. That's a good number. Devers is batting .241, bringing it up, and his OBP is 268. So still not high, but it's coming along. And it's funny that 2 of our worst hitters have been Mookie Betts and Moreland. But Mookie Betts played 5 games. Moreland's been bad. JBJ's been awful. He's batting .128. But the bottom of the lineup has been better. I tweeted that today, and some guy tweeted